Should we make our children ready for society or make society ready for our children? This is the Performatory Talks with Fenna Deters.
I want to start with a question to you all. How many different people are there in this room? You don't have to answer it now. You can think about it during my talk. When I was born, I was immediately put in a lot of boxes. I was a girl. I was the second child in my family. I was a late-born girl. I was a weighty girl, and a lot of more. And this example shows that already in the first minutes of our lives, we are putting in a lot of boxes, and society expects things according to these boxes. Expecting things by society. I was searching for a word which described that the most for me, and I came across the achievement-oriented society. Achievement-oriented in a way that society always is expecting things from you, and that society always can have a pressure on you. But is it always a bad thing then? Because that's what the feeling I had with it. I felt the need to first know where the achievement-oriented society comes from. Because I was wondering, how do we actually get here? The word achievement-oriented society is already used in the Volkskrant in the 19th of the previous century. There was a Chinese philosopher, Byung-Chul Han, who said in 2000 that he thought that the achievement-oriented society was a successor of the command society. He explains the difference as following. The command society is a society where you work for a boss 5 days a week and 8 hours a day. After work, you're really done with your work and you just start working the next day again. In the society which is achievement-oriented, we are imposing our works on ourselves, and we are busy for 82 hours a week with work. But there are more visions about the beginning of the achievement-oriented society. Back to the beginning of our lives, I talked with Wendy Bucks. She is an expert in raising children, and she wrote a blog about raising children in the achievement-oriented society. Her vision of the beginning of the achievement-oriented society was that this society was started from the time of the flower power. In the flower power, youngsters suddenly made such big steps and it worked out. So Wendy believes that from that time on, society expected we can all make such big steps. And that it from that time on was to be seen as normal to make such big steps. And then a third vision about the beginning of the achievement-oriented society. That is when a neoliberalism came on. Neoliberalism, from an economical perspective, is a system wherein we have to maximize profit and minimizing cost, regulated by the government. And neoliberalism was already there in the 30s of the previous century, but it came back after World War II in such a huge way as we know it nowadays. So, the origin of the achievement-oriented society isn't fixed. And when I realized that, I realized also that I didn't have to focus on where it is coming from, but more on the system, how it works nowadays. My interests are lying with the raising of children. I read that blog, I already told you. So I was wondering what the impact of the achievement-oriented society has on the raising of children. I talked with Wendy Bucks, who was the author of the blog Achievement-Oriented Society and the Raising of Children. And the most interesting thing, what I found out during this conversation, was that pressure can have a huge impact on the brain of human. Wendy told me a theory that the human brain consists actually of 3 parts. That's the human brain, the mammalian brain, and the reptile brain. The human brain is the part which is the rational one, the intellectual one. That part of the brain thinks in a rational way about things in life. Then you have the mammalian brain. The mammalian brain is the one which is handling from emotions. So the more unconscious things like personality. And then you have the reptile brain. And the reptile brain is the part which is active while you are in the surviving mode. So when that part of the brain does more automatically things. And it's proved that if a child has felt a really huge pressure, that the reptile part of the brain is growing much faster than the other two. As a result of that, the intellectual and emotional part of the brain will be less development. Besides the theory, I was also wondering how people who are actually in the raising of children now, so parents, were dealing with this achievement-oriented society. I talked to Saskia Weerstand. Saskia Weerstand is a Dutch presenter on television, and she also has her own YouTube channel. And besides that, she is a mother of a 1-year-old boy. We talked a lot about it, but the most important thing I found during that conversation was that I saw that there was a contrast in what she was saying and what she actually behaving. She said, namely, that she arranged with her husband that they would always let their son in his value. But when I asked further, she also said that they want to avoid her son from her own bad features, so that he didn't take them over. So what she actually was saying is that she wants to leave her son in his value, but she always also wants her baby boy to become a good child. This contrast, I also saw it during my work as an entertainer and a tutor for primary school kids. Parents often say that they want to have the best for their child, that they want to do what's the best for their child. But deeply inside, most of the parents want to have the best child, the smartest child, the most beautiful child, and so on. And I think that this behavior, or rather mindset, comes from this achievement-oriented society. Comes from the pressure to feel that we all want to have the best child, the most beautiful child, and want to perform them the best. But I asked myself when I came to this conclusion, but what is then actually the achievement-oriented society? Is it only the pressure to perform, or is it always also the pressure to be happy? Because that was something I thought when I started this research. And I talked about that with Irene Koen. And Irene Koen is an amplitude expert, which means that she always is focusing on talent development. And Irene told me something very interesting, where I never thought about before. Irene told me that always focusing on being happy can also be a negative part of your life. Because if you are also always only focusing on being happy, the risk exists that you forgot about the others. Because if you are sad or if you are angry, that can also be part of your happiness. When I thought about that, I thought, okay, if only happiness or sadness or angriness being part of your own happiness, maybe working with achievements, working towards goals, working with targets can also be part of your happiness. Also something which I didn't thought of. So I read an article of Marielle de van der Vlies, and she stated that working with goals, working with targets was actually something which gives her structure, which gives her focus, which gives her clarify. And all these three things were part of her happiness. When I came to this conclusion, I thought that there was a very simple conclusion actually. Because the common thing in all these things I've researched was quite simple. Every person is different. Every person has different beliefs, different values, and different things that works for them. And probably you all could make that conclusion without doing all this research. And probably when I ask you this question in the beginning of my talk, you all start counting people, because you know we are all different people. But if we know that we are all different, that we have different values, different beliefs, why is there then just one society? Nowadays, we prepare our children to make in a way that they fit the society how it is now. In my ideal future, we are preparing society in a way that it will fit our children. Let me explain it with this box. This is just a box, just a fixed box. I will never fit in this box at this moment. I can do two things then. I can adapt myself in a way that I will fit in this box, or I can try to adapt this box so that it will fix me. And that's what I want to do with this achievement-oriented society. Because I believe that children deserve a society wherein they can flourish, wherein they can develop on their own way, in their own way and at their own level. And if we cannot give that to children in the society we live in now, we have to change society, not children. How I'm going to do that is something I want to explore during my next years in becoming a professional social innovator. And if you all go home at the end of this day, I want to ask you to think about the box you're in. Are you fitting this box, or does this box fitting you? Thank you.